The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden haze over Valley Ridge. I could smell the faint scent of freshly mown grass mixed with the rich aroma of the impending rain, a storm brewing in the distance with dark clouds threatening to engulf the last bits of daylight. The air felt electric, almost charged with the excitement of a summer storm. I stood outside the worn-out wooden gate of my backyard, my heart pounding in time with the rapid beat of my thoughts, the temptation of retribution calling to me like a siren song I could not ignore. "Ronan Steele," I whispered to myself, feeling the name reverberate in the thick air around me. "It's time." With the fading light casting long shadows across the grass, I turned my gaze towards the sprawling two-story house just down the street, the Fraser's house. The very sight of it sent a wave of anger surging through me, a painful reminder of my past and the betrayal that had uprooted my life. I clenched my jaw, allowing the memories to wash over me like a relentless tide. 2 years ago, I had been happy. I had a steady job, a reliable group of friends, and a girlfriend named Clara. Everything had seemed perfect until her betrayal came crashing down like a lightning bolt, shattering everything I thought I knew about love and loyalty. I could see Clara's laughter echoing in my mind, her brown hair dancing in the breeze, until the laughter morphed into a cold, ruthless cackle when I realized she had chosen Jake Fraser over me. Jake was charming, always charmed people with his boyish good looks and sly wit, yet it was that very charm that had stolen Clara right from under my nose. What does he have that I do? I often wondered, pacing back and forth in my modest living room, filled with faded memories and broken dreams. The betrayal twisted deeper, an icy knot of anger forming in my stomach as I thought about how their affair had unraveled the last 2 years of my life. "Ronan," I murmured softly to the wind, "you need to channel this pain into something." The thought of revenge slithered into my mind, warm and seductive, pushing aside any lingering guilt I might have felt about wishing harm on them. "I will make them pay," I said out loud, as if saying it would affirm my resolve. Lifting my gaze back to the Fraser's house, I focused on the flickering light emanating from the upstairs window, Jake and Clara's laughter draping over the sound of the wind like a vicious melody. "Look at them together and happy," I growled through clenched teeth. My fists balled by my sides, an insatiable urge forming in the pit of my stomach, a need to set things right. "It's been 2 years, but I am not weak. I will not be the victim of their thoughtless love." As I stood there, my resolve thickening like a storm cloud ready to burst, I knew I was ready to act. A voice in my head told me that plotting revenge was risky, dangerous even, but another voice whispered the sweet comfort of justice. I took a deep breath and ventured back into my house, the quiet of the living room closing around me like a cloak. Thoughts whirled in my mind like leaves caught in an autumn wind. I paced down the hall, my body alive with restless energy as I recalled every moment I had spent with Clara, the happy times, the moments of laughter, and the agonizing betrayal. Every fragment felt like a piece to a puzzle I had to put back together, yet it was different this time. This time, it would not be about love lost, but rather the sweet satisfaction of revenge. My phone buzzed on the table, cutting through my whirlwind of thoughts. I glanced at the screen, an unknown number, likely a telemarketer, yet I picked it up anyway. "Hello," I answered, my voice slightly hoarse. "Ronan Steele?" a smooth voice on the other end asked, but it dripped with condescension. "Who is this? Let's just say I'm someone who knows your truth, Ronan." My stomach dropped. "What do you want?" "Oh, don't play coy. You want revenge on Jake and Clara, don't you?" My heart raced at the very mention of their names, the tendrils of my rage curling around my thoughts again. "Why do you care?" I barked, trying to keep my voice even. "Because I can help you," the voice said, calm and collected, as if they had all the time in the world. My pulse quickened in response. "Why would you help me? What's in it for you?" "Ah, Ronan," the voice scoffed lightly, "you'll find out soon enough. You just need to be ready to seize the opportunity when it comes knocking." "I don't need your help," I declared, feeling a fierce pride rise within me. "I can handle this on my own." A cool chuckle echoed from the other side of the line, silencing my protest. "You're angry, I get it, but anger can blind you. Emotions can cloud your judgment." "Who are you even?" I demanded, heat flooding through my veins. "Someone who can make them pay without tipping them off that you had a hand in it. How do I know you aren't just playing me?" I challenged, my instincts flaring to their highest alert. "You don't," the voice replied simply, "but think about it. Are you really going to let them enjoy the life they've built together while you fester alone in your anger, or will you take the first step and make them feel what you felt?" I felt the weight of their words settle deep within me, echoes of doubt creeping in, but a more pressing sensation ignited the fire of my determination. "What's your name?" I asked, cautiously curious. "Call me Ghost," the voice answered, each word oozing with confidence. "I watch, I see, and soon I will help you make your move. I'm not a pawn, I shot back, but there was a creeping curiosity echoing in the back of my mind, gnawing at my resistance. Tonight might be your chance, think about it. With that, the line went dead, leaving me in a silence that felt suffocating. The walls of my living room closed in, and the chaos of the day fell heavy around me. Ghost, I whispered to the emptiness. What happens next? I could almost feel the weight of fate shifting, challenging me to figure out my next move in the game unfolding before me. My heart pounded in rhythm with the rain beginning to beat against the window, drops drumming a melody that felt strangely like a countdown. I sat on the edge of my couch, my mind racing. Was I ready to take the leap? Could I truly pull off this revenge and make them suffer without being caught? I stood abruptly, urgency flooding through me. I need to get my ducks in a row, I muttered, knowing I needed a plan as I swept through every room in my house collecting things that would help me set this revenge into motion. I grabbed my old camcorder from the attic, memories flooding back from the last time I used it, capturing blissful moments that now felt like a mockery of my life. They might never see this coming. I felt a grin creeping onto my face, the bitter thrill of potential revenge washing over me like the cooling rain outside. I packed my backpack with the camcorder and a few tools I thought might come in handy. Like Ghost said, I murmured, this might be my chance. Lights were beginning to flicker on within the Fraser house as night fell, settling in for the impending rain. Smirking, I glanced at my watch, time to put my plan into action. With my heart pounding in my chest and adrenaline rushing through my veins, I slipped on my jacket and headed out the door. The rain began to fall heavier, a steady downpour driving the world around me into a blurred canvas of grays and blacks. I ducked under eaves and slipped into shadows, my heart thumping with every frantic step I took through the drenched streets of Valley Ridge, as whispers of revenge echoed in my ears. They will pay, I muttered under my breath, the words grounding me even as the storm raged around me, every drop reinforcing my resolve. With every passing moment, the destiny of my revenge was inching closer, and as I reached the edge of the sidewalk, just across the street from the Fraser's house, I felt anticipation crackling in the air like electricity. This was only the beginning. This was mine. The wind howled through the old oak trees lining my father's property, their gnarled branches swaying like skeletal arms reaching out from the shadows. I pulled my jacket tighter around me as I stepped down the creaky wooden porch stairs, the aged wood protesting under my weight. The icy air stung my lungs, but it was nothing compared to the rage swirling inside me. I needed to confront this anger, this insatiable desire for revenge playing games in my mind like a serpent coiled and ready to strike. I could feel the adrenaline surging, almost electric, charging through my veins like a live wire. As I crossed the gravel driveway, each crunch beneath my feet echoed the determination pulsing in my chest. I could not let them get away with what they had done. It wasn't just a personal betrayal, it was a violation of everything I believed in. I paused for a moment, clenching my fists. I will not be a victim anymore, I whispered to myself, the words lingering in the frosty air like smoke from a dying fire. I made my way to my truck, an old rust bucket that had seen better days, but it was mine and I didn't care about appearances. In my mind, every dent and scratch told a story, each mark a testament to who I was and where I had been. This is it. It's time to take action, I muttered, turning the key in the ignition. The engine coughed to life, sputtering like it was waking from a long slumber. The warm air from the heater enveloped me as I pulled out of the driveway and onto the winding road, every mile taking me further away from the past that had trapped me for so long. I needed to find Austin. With every drop of gas I burned, I envisioned the confrontation that awaited me. His arrogant smile flipped like a switch in my mind, a cruel reminder of the man who had taken everything from me. I could still hear his laughter echoing in my ears, feel his mocking jabs dig deeper into my heart. You think you can just walk away from this, Ronan? He had sneered at me the last time we met, the words rolling off his tongue like venom. You are just a small-town fool in over his head. I spat the words back in my head like a bitter pill, but I was done being the fool. I was done playing by his rules. As I drove through the desolate landscape of Valley Ridge with its rolling hills and barren fields, I let anger fuel my thoughts. Austin would not see me coming. I pulled into the parking lot of the old bar on the outskirts of town, the Green Lantern. It was the kind of place where rumors flowed as freely as the beer. A few rattled pickup trucks lined the lot, and the dingy neon sign buzzed like a fly trapped in a window. Stepping out of my truck, the cold wind bit my skin, but the warmth of impending confrontation warmed me from the inside out. I pushed through the heavy wooden door, the familiar squeak echoing through the bar. The air hung thick with smoke and laughter, the scent of stale beer mixing with the lingering aroma of greasy food. The jukebox crooned an old country tune, its melancholic notes pulling at the corners of my mind. I scanned the room, my heart thundering as I spotted Austin seated in a far booth, a group of his friends laughing raucously around him. He looked the same, messy hair, charming grin, and confidence that oozed from every pore. I thought of the lives he had shattered, the lies he had spun. "There he is," I murmured to myself, gritting my teeth. My fists tightened at my sides as I strode across the bar, every heartbeat drumming like war drums in my ears. As I approached the booth, their laughter faded, replaced by a palpable tension that crackled in the air. Austin looked up, and for a brief second, surprise washed over his face before a smug smirk replaced it. "Well, well, if it is Ronan Steele, the resident loser," he sneered, leaning back in his seat with an air of false bravado. "Did you finally decide to crawl out of whatever hole you've been hiding in?" I took a deep breath, the words just beneath the surface begging to burst forth. "Need to talk, Austin." I cut right through what should have been small talk. His friends shifted, glancing between us like spectators at a boxing match, uncertainty dancing on their faces. "Oh, really? About what?" He waved his hand dismissively, as if shooing away an annoying fly. "Is it about how you still haven't gotten over that old grudge? Or maybe you want to discuss the fact that your pathetic life is going nowhere?" Every tease felt like a dagger, but it only fueled the fire growing within me. "This isn't a joke, and you know it," I shot back, my voice low and dangerous. "You're playing with lives, Austin." "I am playing, yes." His grin widened, teeth flashing in the dim light. "And Ronan, you have been a glorious pawn in my game." The laughter around him bounced off the walls, and I could feel a rush of heat creeping up my neck. "You think this is funny? You think you can toy with everyone and not face the consequences?" I felt like a lion cornered, each moment pushing me closer to unleashing my true fury. "What consequences? Have you forgotten who you're dealing with? You will never be able to touch me. I'm untouchable." I could see he was relishing this, narcotic joy dancing in his eyes. "Look around you. I've got friends, power, and money to keep me safe. You're just a ghost. Don't you get it? You're out of your depth." Anger flooded my veins, nearly blinding me. I stepped closer, lowering my voice, the words twisted with raw emotion. "Then maybe it's time someone put you in your place." The laughter in the booth faded to an awkward silence, replaced by the sound of my heart thrumming in my ears. I took another step forward, the distance between us seemed to shrink. "You think you're invincible, but you're wrong. You've made enemies and they don't forget," I hissed, venom dripping from every syllable. "You've crossed lines you shouldn't have. You think you control everything, but I promise you, everything can come crashing down around you." His smirk faltered for just a moment, and I savored it. The fear buried within him had taken root, sprouting from the darkness of my threats. "You're just rambling now," he shot back, but the fire in his eyes dimmed just a fraction. "Just because you think you can scare me doesn't mean you're right. I think it's time to reconsider." My voice dropped to a near whisper, wrapping around us like fog. "You keep playing with fate, Austin, but it isn't a game. You should really be careful." I could hear the collective intake of breaths from the booth behind him, but he stubbornly held on to his bravado. "You think you're this dark avenger, but you're nothing. Just another washed-up loser hoping for some attention." I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. I wanted to take him down right then and there, to wipe that smug smile off his face once and for all, to show him that I would no longer be the prey. But I held back. The real plan was yet to unfold. "You may not believe me now, but I want you to remember this moment," I said, stepping back to create distance. "You'll regret this. Nothing lasts forever, and the higher you climb, the harder you will fall." With that, I turned, gripping the edge of the table as I made my way out, each step solidifying my resolve. The laughter erupted once again behind me, but it was incredibly hollow, as if to disguise how shaken they were. I could still feel Austin's eyes on me, piercing like daggers, and the adrenaline coursing through me was intoxicating. As I stepped back into the night, the cold air felt refreshing against my heated skin. I knew this was only the beginning. The game was underway, and I had just made my first move. With my heart still pounding, I climbed back into my truck and slammed the door. In the solitude of the vehicle, I let the silence wash over me, breathing deeply to calm my raging heart. The icy tendrils of fear intertwined with anticipation, a dizzying mix that set my mind racing almost as fast as the engine. "This isn't over," I murmured to myself, gripping the steering wheel like it was my only lifeline. My eyes flitted to the rearview mirror, catching a glimpse of the bar fading into the distance. I could almost hear the raucous laughter of Austin's friends ringing in my ears, a twisted symphony echoing against my resolve. The night was still young, but I had a plan, one that would stretch far beyond the superficial banter of that bar. As I pulled out onto the main road, a sinister thought snaked through my mind, intertwining with the darkness that had consumed me. Let the games begin. The rain had finally stopped, but the heavy scent of wet asphalt lingered in the air. I stood at the window of my small apartment, watching the droplets slowly snake down the glass pane. Each one felt like a lazy tear hanging on, waiting for the right moment to be released. A fitting metaphor for what was building up inside me. My hands twitched at my sides, my heart raced like a wild animal in a confined cage. It was time to confront the ghosts of my past, and I felt that chilling tremor in my chest, the kind that whispers of both dread and anticipation. The fluorescent lights above me flickered, casting short, stuttering shadows that danced in the corners of my mind, but I was too focused on the task ahead to let it bother me. I had spent 2 weeks planning every detail, carefully constructing my path to revenge against Eric Donovan and his cronies, who had stolen the only thing that mattered to me, my brother, Liam. I took a deep breath, the cool air filling my lungs, laced with the unmistakable sting of purpose. I squared my shoulders and grabbed my jacket from the back of a wooden chair before heading out the door. The pallor of twilight enveloped Valley Ridge as I stepped onto the street, the air thick with anticipation. I walked with purpose, my feet echoing against the pavement like a march to war, drawing stares from passers-by who whispered. They had no idea that a storm was brewing within me, one that would soon unleash its fury. As I approached the Crow's Nest, the bar where Eric and his goons often hung out, I tried to fold the anxiety into the corners of my mind, wrapping it tightly like old newspaper. I could almost hear my brother's laughter echoing against the walls of that place, and with that thought came the pain of loss, sharp and insistent. I shook my head, focusing instead on the task at hand. Stepping through the bar's heavy wooden door felt like crossing into another world. The dull roar of conversation blended with the clink of glass and the scent of stale beer. There was a crowd gathered around the pool table, laughter and banter filling the air as Eric leaned over the table, his lean figure poised like a predator ready to strike. He was always the centerpiece of chaos, and I had spent so long watching from the sidelines. My heart thrummed in my chest like a drum. A mix of rage and excitement surged through me as I pushed forward toward the bar, trying to blend in with the crowd. I had to remain unseen, to observe just a little longer before I laid my plan into motion, but my gaze locked onto Eric without permission. He had a way of drawing attention, with his dark hair slicked back and confidence oozing from every pore. I had at least one advantage. Eric didn't expect me to be here. The other guys gathered around him were the usual suspects, almost like a pack of wolves, jeering and hollering while swigging down their drinks. I remembered Liam telling me stories about these guys, how they thrived on fear and were ruthless when it came to their turf. As I stood there, gripping the edge of the bar with white knuckles, I could see one of them nodding towards me. It was Ryan, a shorter man, but with the sort of loyalty that made him dangerous. He walked over, a mischievous smile coloring his lips. "What's a stranger like you doing in a place like this?" he asked, his tone half playful, half threatening. "Just passing through," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "Thought I might indulge a bit." I forced a laugh, but it felt stiff and awkward, like trying to swim against the tide. "Is that right? You look a little lost, my friend." His eyes narrowed, scanning me. "Not a regular. I am now," I said, catching Eric's eye for a split second before he turned back to his game. The flush of adrenaline coursed through me, and I silently cursed myself for revealing any weakness. Ryan leaned in closer, shooting a conspiratorial glance over his shoulder. "We're just about to finish this game. Want to join? Eric could use some competition." I am more of a spectator, to be honest. I wanted nothing to do with Eric, but I also couldn't back down now. "Ah, come on, let us see what you've got," Ryan urged, a predatory grin spreading across his face as he grabbed my arm and pulled me towards the pool table. Eric straightened up when he noticed us approaching, narrowing his eyes at me. "What's this?" he asked, his voice dripping with disdain. "We have a new kid who wants to take us on." Ryan clapped me on the shoulder. "Let's see if he's all talk or if he's got some skills." Just like that, I was thrust into the spotlight, standing in front of Eric Donovan, a predator surrounded by his pack. I could sense the tension in the air, suffocating but also exhilarating. "What's your name, kid?" Eric asked, leaning back on the table, a cocky smirk playing on his lips. "Ronan Steele," I replied, my voice firm despite the storm of feelings swirling inside me. "Doesn't really ring a bell." He pushed off the table and approached me, his gaze assessing. "You sure you want to step into this lion's den?" It was a challenge, and I could feel the eyes of the crowd on me, weighing my worth. "I know how to handle myself," I shot back, a confidence I didn't fully feel spilling out as easily as words. There was ridicule in his stare, but a flicker of amusement danced in his eyes. "All right, let's see what you've got." The game began, and despite the banter and friendly taunts, I was crafting my strategy, observing movements, watching Eric's behavior. All my focus was on him, studying the man who had torn my world apart. As we played, the crowd cheered and jeered with each shot that landed or missed. I found a rhythm, allowing the banter and the laughter to wash over me, but in my mind there was a single, silent mantra: find the weakness. Every time Eric took his shot, I noticed the way he clenched his jaw, the flicker of irritation that danced behind his bravado when he missed. I felt alive in knowing that this wasn't just a game to me, it was a stepping stone on the path to vengeance. "Care to make it interesting?" Eric said as he lined up for a shot, his posture tense. "What do you mean?" I asked, my heart pounding louder than the music in the background. "Loser buys the drinks for a month. Winner walks away happy." I grinned, excitement sparking through me. "You know I can't pass that up." Eric shot me a cocky smile accompanied by a mock bow. "Then let's make this fun." The crowd cheered enthusiastically, the stakes now heightened. The game continued, each shot intensifying with the mounting tension. Integrity didn't matter. What mattered was winning. Winning meant power, power meant control, and control meant I could drive my own narrative. I gauged the distance and calculated angles, each movement increasingly deliberate. The crack of the balls colliding echoed in my ears like a drum roll, a promise of what was to come. Eric missed a critical shot, and while a cheer erupted from the crowd, my heart leapt with uncontrollable excitement. The game wore on, the stakes pressing heavily on both of our shoulders. The bar's lights seemed to pulse, strobing shadows across Eric's face. "You're lucky," he muttered, frustration marring his features. "I can be really good when I want to." "You should try harder then," I teased, barely containing my satisfaction. It was incredible getting under his skin, knowing each jab was twisting the knife deeper. We traded shot for shot until it came down to the final round, a winner-takes-all duel. I could feel the anticipation in the air wrap around us, prickling at my skin as if the world outside had ceased to exist. Eric leaned over the table, sweat glistening at his temples. "You ready to kiss your pride goodbye?" he taunted, misjudging my confidence. "You should think twice about that." "Right back at you," I shot back, my confidence surging as I took my turn. The table felt electric beneath my fingertips, every curve and groove familiarizing itself with my touch. I made my shot, sinking the 8-ball into the corner pocket with the grace of a dancer. Cheers erupted around me like fireworks, and in that moment I could see Eric's expression shift from cocky bravado to something else entirely, a flash of anger mixed with disbelief. I should not feel satisfaction, but there it was, unrolling inside me, encouraging my resolve. The crowd surrounded me, congratulating me with pats on the back, laughter booming, mock conversations about drinks they would enjoy. I sought out Eric in the whirlwind of excitement, catching him standing to the side, his jaw locked in anger. "Looks like you owe me a round," I said, the satisfaction tinged with underlying tension. "Looks like I am paying for my bad luck," Eric replied through gritted teeth, the stormy expression etched on his face. "Don't get too cocky, Steele. You got lucky this time. I will not let you forget that." I was beyond pleased. "I'll take my chances. See you again, Eric." As I turned to leave, that familiar prickle of fear gripped me. I had to hold on to my triumph, but I was aware that in this dark world the tides could shift. Behind me, Eric's voice followed like a whisper of chaos. "Sooner than you think, Ronan, you will regret this." The atmosphere weighed heavily as I stepped out of the crow's nest, the cool night air hitting my flushed cheeks like a refreshing wave. My heart whirred with adrenaline while my mind replayed the confrontation over and over again. I felt almost dizzy in the aftermath. It was not just about the game. It was about declaring war against the men who had run me and my family into the ground. My mission was set in stone, and the seed of my revenge had firmly taken root. Little did they know this was just the beginning. I walked down the street, feeling taller, more invigorated, yet shadows lingered beyond the thrill. With every step, I could also hear Liam's laughter calling, urging me forward. There was a long way to go, and I could not falter now. A chill danced along my spine, a reminder that vengeance was a dangerous game. But I grasped onto my resolve tightly, determined to shape the path that lay ahead. The air was thick with tension as I stood at the edge of the town square, the moon casting a silvery glow over Valley Ridge. Shadows danced in the periphery, flickering through the streets where memories lingered like stubborn ghosts. Across the cobblestones, I could see the facade of Crimin's pub, its welcoming glow a sharp contrast to the dark thoughts swirling in my mind. It was almost time. I could feel it in the pit of my stomach, a mix of excitement and dread. The plan that had taken months to concoct was finally at its cusp. My heart raced as I thought of Graham, the mastermind behind my suffering, who had no idea what was about to unfold. "Tonight's the night," I muttered to myself, shoving my hands deeper into the pockets of my worn leather jacket. My reflection in the glass door of the pub made me pause, a gaunt figure with eyes blazing like embers. Who was this man standing here with fury swelling inside? I felt the weight of all those months spent plotting, crying, and healing. I had transformed from a victim into something fierce. Somehow this felt right. As I stepped closer, the muffled sounds of laughter and clinking glasses spilled out from within. It was an orchestra of camaraderie, ignorant to the storm brewing outside. I pushed the door and entered, immersing myself in the ambience. The warmth enveloped me like a tender hug, made inviting by the aroma of spiced beer and sizzling food. It was a sanctuary for many, but for me, it was the stage for retribution. I took a moment to scan the room. The place was buzzing with fairly drunk patrons chatting boisterously around worn-out wooden tables, filling the air with jolly noise and genuine laughter. My eyes landed on Graham at the bar, his back turned to me, luxuriating in attention like a king on a throne. University days had been so different, just a bunch of kids with wannabe dreams of changing the world. We were so naive. I clenched my fists, locking away the hurt. Tonight, that facade would shatter. I approached the bar, allowing the grainy wood to ground me. The bartender, a scruffy man with a bushy beard and an easy smile, greeted me. "What can I get for you, friend?" He casually wiped down the counter, the action rhythmic and familiar. "Just a soda, thanks," I replied, my voice steady. I needed my wits about me. I watched the bartender pour the drink while I concentrated on Graham, who was loosening up, knee-deep in conversation with friends. "What's the deal with that guy?" The bartender leaned in, nodding toward Graham. "He seems to draw a crowd." I looked back at the man who had once been my friend. He used to be someone I knew well. The bartender studied me for a moment, the sparkle of intrigue in his eyes. "Used to be? That sounds like a story worth telling." Tension bubbled like a pot nearly boiling. I had no time for casual chit-chat. I took my drink and stepped away from the bar, careful not to meet the gaze of Graham's friends. They were blissfully unaware of the web I was spinning around their kingpin. My heart thumped in rhythm with the fading laughter while I made my way to a quiet corner table, half hidden in the dim light. I needed to observe first. I needed to breathe this air thick with unwarranted confidence, the kind Graham embodied after every bad act he perpetrated in the name of charisma. Through the haze of beer and smoke, I began crafting my final act. Revenge was a dish best served cold, but I needed precise timing. After sipping my drink, I watched as Graham leaned back against the bar, his arm draped casually over the shoulder of a woman with cascading red hair. She laughed at something he said, her smile both genuine and labored. I could not help but feel a spark of jealousy, though it was withering. She had no clue what sort of man she was dealing with. The room continued to swirl around me, laughter vibrating in my core and pushing me toward my goal. He had no idea I had spent sleepless nights planning for this moment. I had finally cracked the code more than mere retribution. I had come to understand why Graham had hurt me. It was not just personal. It was a manifestation of his own insecurities. That realization, forged in pain and introspection, was intoxicating. I was no longer looking to erase my past, but elevate myself beyond it. A smile crept onto my face. "Ronan!" A voice pulled me from my thoughts, and I snapped my gaze to face an old acquaintance. Tim, a wiry guy with a mop of curly hair, looked surprised to see me. "Tim, it's good to see you. You've got the same old look." I attempted to immerse myself in this moment, though I would prefer not to be recognized. Yeah, I know everyone says so. What are you doing here? I thought you moved away." "Heard whispers you were in trouble or something." His eyes sparkled with curiosity. "I've come home," I replied, attempting to sound casual, though I could feel the pulse of anxiety bubbling beneath my skin. There was no turning back now. Tim's keen gaze swept over my shoulder towards Graham, who was chuckling loudly, his face lit up in the throes of entertainment. "Ah, I see. How's the old crew treating you?" "It is quite the reunion," I replied, my voice laced with a tension that only Tim seemed to sense. "What about you?" "I am surviving, as usual. You know how it is." He shifted awkwardly, his eyes darting between me and Graham. "What are you planning to do about him? I heard he's been causing trouble again. Wasn't he supposed to grow up?" The derision in his tone made me smile. "I think tonight is going to be very memorable for both of us." I took a sip of my soda, allowing the fizz to escape in a satisfying pop. Tim cocked his head, studying me. "What do you mean?" But just as I opened my mouth to say something more, Graham turned on his bar stool, spotting me across the room. Recognition swept over his features, morphing his playful demeanor into something decidedly darker, as though a tropical storm had suddenly engulfed the peaceful beach. His grin faltered for just a moment, and then it broadened, masking the shock behind a veil of bravado. "Ronan Steele, the prodigal son returns," he called out, his voice slick with sarcasm and amusement. People turned to look at me, and the room fell dangerously silent. Both Tim and I shifted our attention to the man whose charm had previously disabled our better judgment. "Graham," I said, my voice flat but tinged with defiance. "Could have sworn I was seeing things. Didn't expect to see you here after the fiasco you left behind." His words dripped like poison from his lips. "Yup, you know me, I love a good disaster." I met his eyes, feeling the pulse of past hurt but also the weight of liberation. "Let it go, Graham," I said, taking a step closer, fueled by anger and the invigorating zest nobody could take from me any longer. "This isn't going to go the way you think," he laughed, an ugly sound that clawed at my insides. "What can a pathetic loser like you do? This is my realm, Ronan. You stepped into the lion's den without knowing how sharp my teeth are. In fact, I should have expected this. Back from the dead only to make a fool of yourself once more." I shifted my weight, my heart beat thunderous with intensity. "I am here to end this. What you did, how you made my life a joke, it stops tonight." Graham stepped down from his perch, swaggering dangerously close, his presence satisfying his need for dominance. "You think you can scare me? You think some heartfelt speech will erase what you are? No, it will not." "But it is time for accountability," I replied, surprising myself with the fierceness of my own words. His laughter rang loud in my ears, a cruel taunt that pulled others closer to our impromptu showdown. "Accountability for what? You are so wrapped up in your sad story, Ronan, you forgot how to be a man. He spent too long being the shadow, Graham, hiding from your taints. You took more than anyone can comprehend, but look at me now. I've rebuilt myself." "Rebuilt?" "No, you just crawled back from the gutter, but you are still stuck in the past, still tethered to the fear you let me instill." "I am here to break free," I shot back, my voice rising as fury ignited inside me. I took a deep breath, fighting to keep my composure while my vision narrowed on the space between us. "Tonight, I take back everything." "What exactly do you plan to do? You're just a little man in the shadow of my greatness." He snarled, his bravado escaping him as he leaned closer, eyes ablaze with fury. A challenge hung in the charged air, palpable and crackling. The crowd's interest spiraled into entertainment as they watched the unfolding drama with bated breath, cradling drinks and leaning closer. I had not expected to find myself at the center of this firestorm, yet the urgency fueled my adrenaline. The crowd, I realized, had grouped themselves as if spectators of a silent boxing match. "It won't be in violence, Graham, but in clarity." I was surprised at how steady my voice sounded despite the chaos in my chest, the drum echoing like a battle cry. "You led." Before my voice could travel, he interrupted, his expression sharpening into something dangerously unrecognizable. "And what? You stand there spouting your pathetic story while I drown in my own victories. You think anyone cares? Leave now and I won't make a scene." "You don't get it," I said defiantly, matching his hostility without wavering. "This is not just for me. This is for everyone else you've hurt along the way. The smiles you so carelessly shatter. They deserve to be restored." Laughter rippled through the onlookers, nodding heads and whispers drenching the space. Graham's face twisted with a mixture of anger and confusion, an indescribable hurt layered under his practiced bravado. I saw for a brief moment how unhinged he could become when pressed. "You think you can preach to me about hurt?" he spat, taking a step back and gritting his teeth. "I am the king of this town, and the fear you bring is nothing compared to what I unleash in return." "Careful, Graham," I warned, now emboldened. "It turns out kings can fall too. I am here to put an end to your reign." He chuckled bitterly while stepping back from me, glancing around the crowd who were all watching with expectant eyes. "You really believe that?" "I don't just believe it, Graham." Tonight, the tables turn. In that moment, I realized the time had come not just to confront my past, but to rise above it, above the fear and hurt that had once burdened me both metaphorically and physically. Silence enveloped us, a pause, a breath taken in anticipation, and then I stepped back, aligning every emotion to a singular moment that would etch itself into the night. "I will no longer be the ghost in your shadow, so let's settle this once and for all. Our pasts clash tonight, and you will not like the result." And just like that, I watched Graham's bravado falter further. The realization seeped into his expression that maybe I was not a ghost. Maybe the ghost would haunt him. I stood in the dimly lit room, the walls lined with the remnants of my past. Old pictures hung askew, memories frozen in time staring back at me, each one a reminder of the twisted path I had walked. I could still hear the echoes of laughter from when life had been simpler, before betrayal had become a part of my everyday existence. The air felt thick, almost suffocating, filled with the scent of dust and something else, loss. As I paced back and forth, my thoughts were a whirlwind, colliding like storm clouds. I had waited so long for this moment, a perfect chance for retribution, but now I felt a flicker of uncertainty. The time has come. I whispered to myself, my voice barely breaking the silence that felt both comforting and claustrophobic. I was ready to confront Margaret, the one who had orchestrated my downfall, the puppet master pulling the strings. The betrayal had stung deep, buried under layers of anger and desperation. With every step, memories surged. The way she smiled when I had just started my career, how she had convinced me that my trust in her was well placed. But that trust had turned into ashes in my mouth the day I discovered her scheme. My phone buzzed, pulling me from the reverie. It was a message from Leo, my closest friend. "You sure about this, Ronan? You know what she did?" His concern was palpable through the screen. I could almost hear his voice laced with worry. Leo had been my anchor throughout the storm, but even anchors can't keep a ship from sinking. "Yes." "I have to do this," I typed back quickly, the finality of my response giving me a surge of strength. Just then the door creaked open and Margaret entered, her silhouette sharp against the blinding light beyond. With her dark hair cascading over one shoulder and that infuriatingly smug smile on her face, she reminded me of the calm before a storm, serene yet so very dangerous. "Ronan," she said, her voice silky yet filled with a self-assurance that made my skin crawl. "I didn't think you would actually show up. This is rather unexpected. No more games, Margaret. I'm done playing your part in this twisted theater." My voice came out stronger than I expected, a rawness edging on a growl. The fear of confronting her was buried under layers of anger. Her expression shifted, amusement dancing in her eyes like flames in a controlled fire. "Oh, how dramatic! You think you can confront me after all this time? You think you figured everything out?" "You're not unstoppable, Ronan, not anymore." I had a sudden urge to snatch the satisfaction from her face, to wipe away the smugness that I could see flicker beneath that polished exterior. "Your games have cost me everything. My career, my dignity, my friends, and for what? A twisted version of power. You've taken everything I've built and burned it to the ground." With every word I felt lighter, the weight of years of anger releasing my breath. "Is that what you think?" "This was always just a means to an end," she replied, stepping closer, her presence suffocating yet alluring. "You were too naive, all that talent wasted on idealism." Her voice dripped with condescension, venomous enough to tighten my fists. The betrayal felt fresh, like a wound that had never truly healed. "You used me." I spat the words out like they were poison. "And a sick part of you enjoyed every bit of it. Don't you see, Ronan, I did you a favor. If you had continued down that path of yours, you would have been devoured." Each of her words felt like daggers, ensuring that my resolve held steady. I took a deep breath, feeling the familiar flush of anger coursing through me. "This is not about my past decisions anymore." I paused, locking my gaze with hers. "This is about you and the choices you've made that led to my destruction." As I spoke, I was flooded with memories, trial and error moments that sparked the fire within me, pushing me forward. "Oh, please spare me the hero's speech." She rolled her eyes dramatically, her composure firm even as the tension between us thickened. "You always were an idealist clinging to shadows of the past. Accept the truth, Ronan. You were a stepping stone for me, nothing more." I had waited for this moment, dreamed of it many sleepless nights, imagining the look on her face when I would confront her and finally serve up my reckoning. Suddenly, doubt crept in, a whisper that threatened to tear down my confidence. Was I really prepared for this? Was I ready to speak my truth and face the reality she had set for me? But then I remembered the weight of those years, the horror of being blindsided, being betrayed by someone I had trusted more than my own blood. No, I wouldn't shy away from this anymore. I kept my posture straight, trying not to flinch under her scrutinizing gaze. "You think you can manipulate everyone, but I'm stronger than you think. I know the real you, behind the charm, the smiles, the laughter." "You don't know anything, Ronan." She laughed, but there was a tremor there, a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. "You're pathetic, holding on to this insignificant grudge. I didn't come here to argue over petty claims of betrayal. I came to move on, to put all of this behind us." "Move on? After everything you've done? You think I'm just going to let you walk away unscathed?" My voice rose, powerful and resolute, reminding myself that I was in control here. "You haven't just taken my career, you've stolen my life. You'll face the consequences." Margaret's laughter dimmed, replaced by an icy stare that sent chills down my spine. For a brief moment, I saw the mask slip, revealing the tangled mess of insecurity she tried so desperately to hide. "What can you possibly do, Ronan? You are nowhere near my level. Watch me." The words escaped my mouth before I even thought them through, but as soon as they left my lips, I was hit with clarity. The ache in my chest began to fade, and I could see a pathway to the peace I desperately longed for. "Are you really that desperate?" she sneered, trying to regain her footing in this verbal duel. "Do you think you can take me down? You're just a fading image of someone who used to matter." With that, I stepped forward, my heart racing, my hands trembling with determination. "You assert power, but it's empty. What you've built can easily crumble because it's built on the backs of others, just like me. And I'm no longer the person you underestimated." Her expression shifted as I moved closer. Fear now danced across her features, brief and fleeting, quickly replaced by a stony glare. "Do you really think you can intimidate me? I command respect, Ronan." "Respect?" I laughed, my voice dripping with disdain. "Respect is earned, not taken. You're just a hollow shell operating from a misplaced sense of superiority. Do you really believe the lies you've spun around yourself?" She stepped back, the realization flooding her features. "You have no idea what you're doing, and this pathetic quest for revenge will only seal your fate. You're nothing without me." For a moment, the room fell silent, anxiety thickening the air. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath, feeling the heat of anger transform into a sense of calm and certainty. This was not just about revenge. This was about reclaiming my life, my identity. You're wrong, Margaret. I've already rebuilt myself piece by piece, finding strength in every scar you left. I just needed to stand here, face you, and remind myself who I am. She looked momentarily bewildered, the light in her eyes flickering amidst the realization that I had fully evolved past her malicious grasp. It was a moment of clarity, of liberation, and I felt it wash over me like a warm wave. You cannot control me anymore. And while I fought tooth and nail to reclaim my life, you're on your way to becoming a mere memory. I stepped back, allowing her the full weight of my words to settle in the heavy air between us. The layer of tension that had ensnared us both began to dissipate, leaving an open space for reflection and healing. It's time for you to face the consequences of your actions, Margaret. No more running, no more evading. She shifted her weight, looking as if the walls around her crumbled just slightly. And what do you plan to do? With a deep breath, I relaxed my posture and glanced out the window, feeling renewed and stronger than before. I am done playing the victim. I will find my peace one way or another. I turned to leave, my heart steady, finally free from the chains she had clung to for far too long. Goodbye, Margaret. The door clicked shut behind me, leaving behind the shadows of a past that dragged me down for too long. Outside, the air felt fresh, alive, a stark contrast to the weighted atmosphere I had just left. I stepped into the world renewed, ready to chase my own future, freed from the shackles of revenge. I could finally see clearly. I didn't need to destroy Margaret to find peace. I just needed to walk away. And I knew that even though the scars remained, they would serve as reminders of strength, resilience, and the undeniable fact that I was finally free.